Get all the coughing out of the way. Get it all done. La 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 la.
Harry's nips.
All three of them.
Hey, you, James Bond.
Do you want me to put them away?
The Scaramanga.
I don't know why you cut holes in your t-shirt before this anyway. Why
Just
would
to
you
show
do
them
that?
off.
That, and just to let him breathe.
And why have you got a chain hanging between each of them?
Yeah. It's like, I like the fact it's like a charm bracelet. They're just little trinkets hanging off each one.
Of course.
Just a
It's
reminder.
got to look nice.
It's cool you're wearing it outside the shirt, but the fact that you got to cut holes to stick your nipples out through the holes is a bit weird.
They're pretty long though, aren't they?
I wasn't going to say anything. I think he's been pulling on them.
Yeah.
What's the weight of the charm?
Someone tried to milk him.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Well.
And don't make him fight you.
And speaking of fighting,
See what it did there?
that's incredible. Segway,
They call me
segue.
Captain Segway.
Good lord.
Arr.
Because this week we're talking about puzzle games. No, of course not. No, we're talking about fighting games. So welcome to the On the Level podcast.
Harry's going to talk about fighting games
He is, but
for an hour by himself, and then we're going to quiz him, and I'm going to point and laugh. in
so
a
you're
evil
not
manner.
so you're not going to answer any of the questions that I've written.
I might join in.
Maybe.
Yeah.
See how you get on. Anyway, joining me tonight, opponent number one, my jacuzzi flotation device, the wind beneath my water wings. It's Harry England.
Hello.
And the world's worst protocol droid, Tom 3PO.
I'll take that. I don't mind that.
Is that okay?
I'm happy with that.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I won't mention a lightsaber.
And we call you
Again, whatever you like, darling.
E. Goldilocks.
E. Goldilocks.
Yeah, the Albus Oil Ambassador.
Oh, fair enough. Absolutely. I like a...
Is that good?
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
feeling a bit bunged up. So a few snifters of that.
Harry can sort that out.
I dare say. The night is young. So fighting games. Round one. Harry England. What was the first fighting game that you ever played?
Tekken 3, I want to say.
And that would have been on the
PlayStation 1.
PlayStation 1.
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
I'm going to say, what was that arcade one where you had the weird kind of leather-clad evil opponents? It was kind of like, it was on the Master System. Not Final Fight. It might have been Final Fight.
I mean Double Dragon?
It's like Double Dragon.
Streets of Rage?
I think it was Streets of Rage.
Might have been
Was
Streets
that
of
on the
Rage.
Master System? I think it was Double
I
Dragon
couldn't
first.
tell you. Double Dragon probably was. I don't know if Streets of Rage would have been.
I'll go with that because that was such a long-winded answer. I'll go with that.
Finally.
All right, Double Dragon.
And that brings us to the end of the podcast. The first one I played, I don't know if you technically beat 'em up, but I seem to recall having it. I don't think I had it on the Spectrum or I had it on the Atari, but it was called IK Plus,
IK Plus.
which was International Karate Plus.
Oh God, I have played that then. And I was lying completely with
Because
my...
would that have been your?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's technically. I suppose it is a beat 'em up, but it's
a
not.
sports one.
But it's not in the same traditional, same vein that you have now, where it's one opponent which you pick specifically out of a roster of, I don't know, a dozen.
You know what it was like? It was like sort of if you were playing track and field, but they got the karate event.
Yeah.
It was exactly that.
But I think in the one IK Plus, which is whatever system I had, I couldn't tell you. It was either the
that was on
Spectrum or the Atari.
yeah, I was going to say that would have been a home computer thing.
But it was you versus two opponents, I seem to recall. I think you started in the middle, oddly enough, and then opponents came to you, much like I enjoy of an evening. They come at you from either side.
Yeah. And that's been replicated recently in things like Kung Fury that came out, and it's kind of got that, you have people fighting you from both sides and you have to take them on.
Does it look quite retro?
Yeah,
I'm
very
assuming
80s.
because the film is sort of an 80s pastiche.
Yeah, exactly. It's got all the kind of homages to, typical 80s movies. Apart from the Hitler riding a dinosaur with electric bolt eyes.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's in the movie.
I've not seen the film. I just remember seeing a trailer
film is just
a while ago.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's like
Sort of
every
every 80s trope
80s
you can
trope,
think.
yeah, just crammed into
And
one.
it's like
And
super over the top, isn't
yeah,
it?
and it's either it's kind of like Blood Dragon,
Yeah.
You play Blood Dragon?
Yeah.
Think of that, but only like all the way up to 11.
Okay.
Yeah. You ever played Stick? Is it Stick Fighter?
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, really? It's just a stick man where you're approached from either side and you do moves where you kick, but there are so many people coming at you that it makes you fight in a way that it's really flowing.
Okay.
So you know when in real life when people are doing a fight, they have a kind of pattern to move between moves.
Yeah.
It sort of makes you fight like that. It looks really cool by the end of it, but you're not really having to do anything difficult in terms of lots of combinations for
Okay.
it to achieve that. Well, that's exactly how it plays out.
Okay. Was that like a little flash game or something?
That was,
Yeah.
but it kind of went on to Steam and went and got a little bit bigger. But this kind of Kung Fury, it sort of does the same thing again, but ups the graphics, ups the everything up to 11, like you said. Sorry, I stole your moment about talking about your first fighting game. Carry on.
No, that was it. No, that was really just wanted the introduction to be what was your first game. I think that was it. The one that I remember playing first, the one I remember playing the most of, and probably the only game I've ever played as far as beat 'em ups are concerned for any considerable length of time was, of course, the classic Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
That was on the SNES. It exploded onto the SNES because I think it was regarded at the time as the best or the closest arcade conversion
Yeah.
that we'd ever seen of any type of game.
Okay.
It was as close to it as you could possibly get, and it looked pretty good.
I do-
And at the time, I mean, it was so well rated. But the world and his wife played that. I mean, if you weren't playing that while you were at school, then you were no one to no one.
I think it's probably the most successful selling Street Fighter game probably in history. It's got to be, because I don't
I should
know
think it must
anybody who
be.
never had Street Fighter 2 on there. Anything, you know.
And there were so many different versions of it. I don't know how many versions you remember as I mean, have you played just regular Commodore Garden Street Fighter 2 on the SNES?
No.
You haven't. Okay. So which is the first? Obviously, you're a big Street Fighter fan.
Yeah.
We'll go into Street Fighter 5 a little
Yes.
bit later on, but let's work our way gingerly towards it. So Street Fighter 2, obviously you're aware of.
Yeah.
Obviously as the
franchise
classic.
and- yeah.
But there was Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2,
Ultra, hey.
Turbo Street Fighter
That was
2. I think there were definitely 3 on the SNES. Oh, hang on, wait a moment. We might have some notes here.
The Fact Man.
Well, with Street Fighter 2, they made a few different editions.
Yep.
Obviously, your common old, normal, vanilla Street Fighter 2.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Championship Edition.
That's when it introduced the 4 bad guys.
Yes. Then you had the Turbo Hyper Fighting Edition. They had Super Street Fighter 2, the New Challengers, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then that's when they added Akuma.
Is this all on the SNES?
I don't know if it's all on the
around
SNES.
same
Certainly
time?
the first 3 or 4 were definitely on the SNES. I remember sort of trading in Street Fighter 2 to get...
Excuse
what was
me.
the second one, Turbo?
Turbo Hyper Fighting.
Because that was... They speeded it up, I think, and they
Yeah.
added a few more costumes, I think.
Probably.
Although when you moves, because there was a... They'd added one for Doll Sim that was almost fucking impossible to pull off, where he would teleport, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And you had to do it was a circular motion, I think, with the D-pad, which was so difficult, because obviously there were no analog sticks, you were just on the D-pad. It was almost impossible to pull off, and you could see it coming from a mile off if someone was trying to do it, and it just took so fucking long. But yet I do remember that.
Prior to that, though, there would have been quite a lot of arcade. I always remember, like, in the arcade, there were a lot of Neo Geo cabinets there
Oh.
with a ton of fight. I mean, King of Fighters is their most successful.
Well, that, odd enough, we were talking about King of Fighters
Yeah.
just while we were waiting earlier on today.
But I always remember cabinets of sort of variations of the King of Fighters games. I admittedly walked past them to go and do something else, but my mates would throw money at those machines.
Yeah, I had a friend that absolutely adored it and would play as soon as he could buy that over Street Fighter 2, and he played Street Fighter 2 for days and days and days on end.
Yeah, because I mean,
I could never beat him. I mean, it was just, he was so good.
well, this is probably a dumb question. Was there a Street Fighter arcade game?
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Street
I
Fighter-
guess that was that the first one?
I don't know. There must have been the original Street Fighter. Must have been an arcade game.
I'd imagine so. Very
Street
different to
Fighter,
what
Street Fighter 2 is the
now.
one that just blew it all to
Well, I was
shit.
going to say, because they really successfully kind of... It's Capcom, I should say.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really successfully transferred to the home what they'd got in the arcade. Because
Yeah.
Neo Geo, or was it Tyco? It might have been Tyco. One of the producers of that kind of fighting game on a Neo Geo cabinet unit, they didn't really transfer to the home as anywhere near as successfully as Capcom took them to the home, you know?
No.
to go onto your home console. And
Well, the
anyway,
Neo Geos were ruinously expensive, and they were basically just arcades that you had in.
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they kind of gave you the arcade, but without the surrounding bits.
You just bought the boards.
Yeah.
It wasn't even discs. You bought actual sort of circuit boards to sort of plug in.
Yeah, believe you did.
Earlier on, I don't know if it changed,
Sounds
obviously,
ridiculous.
but if you wanted sort of arcade,
Yeah, that's the way they.
that's
could
what
do
you
it.
got. Yeah.
Was there even a King of Fighters on the Mega Drive or the SNES?
It was on the SNES. Yeah,
It was on the
yeah,
SNES.
my friend had it. Yeah, because we went down to, it was a games expo, I guess. It was in Earl's Court, from what I remember. So it would have been similar to, wouldn't have been an E3 type thing, but it would have been like Insomnia, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, way back when. No, just because you could get obviously import cartridges, which you wouldn't be able to get in most shops back home.
Was it kind of like a giant flea market for games, I suppose?
Essentially, that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, back in the day, that's kind of what you got.
And he wanted to get a Japanese copy of King of Fighters. And I seem to recall he paid £80 or £90 for it. And that's back then. You see, this is back mid-80s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Because I do remember...
Or later, maybe it was early 90s. I'm just trying to think when no, it must have been early 90s.
I was going to say 90s more likely. I remember lots of trips to London, and I would go and stay at my friend Adam's place, who lived out in the sticks, Essex way. And then we'd get the train in,
Yeah.
and we'd always go to the Trocadero.
Yeah.
Because they had a really cool arcade at the time.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. But
But
they
I
had
went,
loads
yeah,
of shops,
yeah.
and they'd have all kinds of stuff, and you had lots of independent game sellers. And you'd have all these random import games that you'd never heard of, and there were always
Yeah.
tons of fighting games that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
He was in his element because that was his thing, but we'd always end up throwing money at a lot of the arcade games in there, and inevitably I'd get my ass handed to me in something like Street Fighter or King of Fighters.
Yeah, King of Fighters was one of those ones that I was never aware of it until my friend spoke about it and bought it. Because if you're prepared to spend £90, which is, must be close, 150 quid now?
Yeah,
I should think
200,
at
something like
least. Yeah, it's a ridiculous sum of money, but he absolutely loved it. Now, as far as I was concerned, not being a huge beat-em-up fan, it was just Street Fighter with just different characters. I'm sure the mechanics were slightly different and all the rest of it. As I'm sure, you will, as someone that has played many beat-em-ups, compared to myself and Tom, who've only played a handful, that obviously the difference, the reason why they still exist or they coexist and continue to produce new ones is the mechanics are all slightly different. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to have 10 odd beat-em-up franchises that still produce the games even now after however many iterations of so many different types of games. But what is it? Obviously, Street Fighter is it your favourite?
Admittedly, no.
Oh, okay. Now, we did talk about this on a podcast,
Yeah,
I
I think we
think.
did.
I can't remember what your number one was now, but it surprised me.
Ultimate Marvel.
That was it. I don't remember. I thought you were saying Mortal Kombat. Oh, you put Mortal Kombat in there as one of your favourite fighters, and that surprised me, because I remember
The
you saying...
franchise
I think-
or a specific one
What? With
of
Ultimate
Mortal Kombat. Was
Oh,
it
Mortal
just
Kombat.
one,
I think
or
it was
the
just
whole
because
thing?
recently Mortal Kombat X had come out, and I was well on the hype train playing that.
Mm.
But I still do enjoy it because I think I was never really much of a fan of the Mortal Kombat series before X, because X was a lot different to previous ones, in my opinion.
Well, even I could see when my friends were playing against me if they just wanted to practice moves, because that's all I tended to be, was someone holding another controller, let
Just a
alone
body
fighting.
bag.
Yeah, they were basically just pummeling. I could see that the fighting mechanic of Mortal Kombat was pretty poor compared to other
It
fighting
was
games.
very
It
simple.
was all sold on its gore factor.
Yeah, it always
that was
was.
pretty much all it was.
Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat, obviously when that came out to huge fanfare because of the gore, which we discussed. I think it must have been the violence episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But that was sort of heralded as an amazing thing at the time, because graphically, with the sort of the digitized graphics
And finishes.
and the finishers, but
Yeah.
it looked really, really good. Well, it looked ropey as fuck now, but at the time, because it was sort of quote unquote, photorealistic looking people. But as a consequence, the mechanics were just pants. It was,
Super sprites.
yeah, but it was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination. But it did well enough to get them all the way through to Mortal Kombat 10.
Yeah.
And then the Game of the Year edition, whatever they call that, is due out imminently,
Complete pack.
of course, with a K.
Yep.
So it's still riding high enough
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned.
Did you ever play Virtual Fighter? I've just remembered that was one I put a lot of money into in the arcade, because there was a drunk guy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't win any fight, I was determined to make that guy look a fool and fall over a lot. So all I used to do was there was a move where you could play dead.
Really?
So you could do something It was green, red, yellow, green, back, up, green, red.
Wow.
That was bullshit. I just made that up. No, it was some easy, simple move, and he would literally take a swig of his sake
Yeah.
and then immediately spin around and then fall on the floor and collapse.
Okay.
And then you could lie in prone. God knows what difference this would make, because there was only you and your opponent on this one big...
And surely they can see
platform.
your health bar?
Well, they can just see you lying down. It looks like you've just collapsed and given up. So I would lie there. You could lie in prone. But if you were playing against the computer, it would sort of get closer or go away, get closer or go away, get closer or go away. And
Right.
it would eventually get close to you, so you'd get up and do like a punch.
Right.
And that was it. And I used to just love watching this old guy with a white beard have a quick drink and then fall over. And to me, that was how I played Virtual Fighter. I never completed any mission, any story in it,
No.
any level. I just threw pounds at it to watch some old man get drunk and fall over.
Well, this is the thing. You mentioning stories, the one thing I did want to sort of bring up. It's not something that affects me. Obviously, you play beat-em-ups more than anyone.
Yeah.
As far as you're concerned, how important is story in these games?
I don't particularly buy them for the story.
No.
Because things like Tekken, especially over the years, the story's so fucking convoluted.
Mm.
It is all over the place. So it's just a point like, I don't care. I just want to play the game because this character that I like to play is in it,
Yeah.
and I want to beat up someone else in it.
Because I had that with... I played Dead or Alive, I think, when it came out. There were the three...
There was a story mode and a fight mode, wasn't there?
Yes, there would have been.
Yeah, you could deliberately split off to do one or the other, and it would turn into like an RPG where you'd walk around. I was thinking that was Dead or Alive, where it wasn't all tits and asses jumping around everywhere.
Oh, there might have been... Actually,
It was basically you could start and just play against your mates in an arcade mode, or you could actually go on a little quest through like a maze or an underground tunnel or something, and it had a little plot to it, and it was a story mode. I'm trying to think if that was the same game.
I don't think that was... It may not have been... It might have been the first Dead or Alive, possibly. But
I think it was really
not,
early on.
Certainly not the second one, because that was... I just remember it, because when the PlayStation 2 first did Platinum games...
Right.
I cannot remember the first 3 games that came out on it in total. I'm sure it's 3. One of them was Dead or Alive 2. One of them was, I want to say Tekken, a Tekken game of some description. And whatever the third one was, which wasn't a beat-em-up. And I bought Dead or Alive because I hadn't bought a beat-em-up since Street Fighter 2 Ultra
Yeah.
something. Yeah, way back where on the SNES. So I bought that because I remember speaking to the guy at Game, this was in Slough, and he'd said that the Dead or Alive fighting system was slightly easier than Tekken. It was a little bit friendlier to button mashing.
Okay.
So you could sort of get on with it. It wasn't quite so
Well, Tekken was
complex.
Tekken was always the button basher compared to Street Fighter, wasn't it?
I don't think I've ever actually played a Tekken game in my life.
Really?
But I bought Dead or Alive 2, and I enjoyed it enough. I thought because it looked really good graphically at the time. It was a good looking game. Boobs aside,
Yeah, I was going to say, and boobs.
a lot of boobs. I did buy another one. I think I did. I couldn't tell you what it was called. But the story in that was just so ridiculous to the point I don't know why you're even bothering. I don't
Yeah.
understand. There was all it's all like Tekken. There's some evil corporation and company and.
But it's always the same father-son scenario where they're a big, huge corporation trying to oppress one of the characters in the game.
Yeah.
And then there are those ones where you're a panda and you want to go and find a life out in the hills, but in order to do that you have to fight in a massive fighting combat
Yeah.
tournament against
Well, there's
a
a reason-
woodman and a...
There's a reason why there is a panda in there.
Oh, go on then, because this is another question I was going to have.
Is this Capcom Science turns
Well,
now?
the panda is a character called Ling Xiaoyu. It's her pet.
Okay.
So she trains with the panda, and so that's how he got into fighting and fights in the tournaments,
How did the panda know Kung Fu?
because she taught it kung fu,
So she turned the panda into a sparring partner, essentially.
pretty much.
Okay.
There's got to be some kind of law against that.
I would have thought that the RSPCA would have a word or two to say about that.
At least
type
put
of
pads
thing.
on,
Yeah,
you know, some kind of bear protector.
because I don't know that pandas are necessarily reviled for their violence, known for their anger.
Pretty lazy, aren't they?
Generally speaking, they like to eat a lot of bamboo and do not a lot else.
This one was a special one, quite clearly.
Clearly.
Alright, explain the wooden man.
Mokujin, he is possessed with some sort of spirit, and his fighting style varies because when you pick him, he essentially just gives you the move set of a random character in the game.
See, that I can get. See, there's weird things I can get on board with that,
What's his story?
but I can't get on board with the
Pinocchio's
panda.
on a quest to become unpossessed.
Yeah.
Oh, fair. Oh, I got it right in one. Fair enough. I won't argue with that then.
But story. Okay, but just go back to story. I don't. For me, if I'm playing a beat 'em up, I couldn't give a shit about story. It
No,
doesn't
I
matter.
don't.
I just want to pick a fighter and then work my way through 10.
I don't think the people making the game give a shit about the story.
But they put the effort in. But I don't know that how many people that actually play Dead or Alive or Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat or whatever actually really invest properly heavily into the story.
There was a good story apparently in Justice that was kind of evil Superman's trying to take everyone out and wants to rule the world. So
Yeah.
there was a kind of link between all the characters to that were being oppressed by him, and there was a kind of fight back to that.
I suppose you need something just to tie it all together, but with some games it just doesn't. Certainly for me, it doesn't matter. Like when I will play Street Fighter 5, but I won't care what the story is behind it.
Wow,
I'll just.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I will just pick one character, or I will work my way through several characters, just have a muck around with it as much as anything.
That's what I was going to say. Is literally you'll try it to have a go at it, see if you enjoy it. It's a pick up and play, but I mean,
I'm never buying that for the story. At no point.
no, I mean 9 times out of 10 people playing that, it's against your mates. That's what it's
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
That's entirely what its process is.
but I
meant to
wouldn't
be.
play a game like, let's say, Final Fantasy VII. If you took that game with the same mechanics and the same characters, but you just had no story, that just wouldn't work. Just
No.
these people randomly moving around, just killing shit because stuff
was a
wants to kill them.
Fighting game
Wouldn't
with them in.
work.
Dissidia.
Is that what it is? Dissidia.
Oh, is that what it is? That's what Dissidia is.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fighting game with Final Fantasy characters.
I had no idea. Well, there you go.
Oh man,
Learned something.
On the
can't believe I
PSP.
knew that.
Fucking hell.
On the PSP, wasn't
Yeah.
it originally?
It was a really good game. They had 2 different ones. 'Cause you had just Dissidia, which came out.
Could you be Marlene?
No, of course you could be Marlene.
Oh man,
Could you be a chocobo? Is it a chocobo?
I bet there's a chocobo in it.
No,
No.
no.
Oh, missing a trick there.
But they didn't have like all of the characters in like from across Final Fantasy games, so you couldn't play as like Barrett or something. He just wasn't in it. But you'd have characters like Yuffie or Cloud or Tidus, other people. But it was really good. Mechanically, it was very different to like a typical fighting game. 'Cause
In
it was
what
like
respect?
it was like third person behind the shoulder type thing, maybe a
Really?
little further back. Yeah.
So it wasn't obviously a side.
No, it wasn't
Side
side at all.
plane.
And you're in like an arena, and you can kind of like fly around, just kicking the crap out of each other.
Yeah, a bit like a big gladiatorial arena, wasn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
that's actually because something that we were again talking about before you turned up was obviously something like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, or the majority of fighters tend to be on a sort of 2D plane. They're in 3D, but you're fighting from just sort of left to right or right to left,
Yeah.
by and large.
Yeah.
And you have something like Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive that is semi 3D. There's movement to be had in the arena,
Yeah.
but you're
Tekken,
still
isn't it?
more or less fighting side by side.
Yeah.
But then you had something like, now is it, I can never remember which way round it is or which ones it is. You had things like Naruto.
Yep.
What's the other one? The game, is it Dragon Ball?
Yes.
Now are they not essentially just beat 'em ups,
Yeah, they pretty much are.
but they're in massive arenas.
Yeah.
They're almost like boss fights. The manner in which you, or from one of the videos I've seen, you're just chasing someone around.
Yeah, you've got a
kind of thing.
huge like open arena just to fight each other around in.
But you really do move in a 3D plane.
Yeah.
Properly move in a 3D
Yeah,
plane.
yeah.
Now, would you classify them as a beat 'em up? In your mind, if you were sort of listing beat 'em ups, would that be there?
It wouldn't be the first thing that would come to mind, but yeah, maybe like further down the list, I'd be like, yeah, I'd include those.
Okay.
Just because mechanically, they are still fighting games.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got your health bars, you just got to beat up your opponent until
They're dead.
Yeah, and then you win to progress to the next opponent.
Now, with that in mind, is Mortal Kombat, as far as you're aware, the only beat 'em up where you beat them to death, as opposed to beat them into
KO.
submission?
Yeah.
I think that might be, yeah, the only one that you will actually beat them to death.
Did they die in Soul Calibur?
No.
Don't believe so. It's just they, like a normal fighting game, they would just like fall over and it's like KO or
Yeah.
you win.
Because you think being stabbed repeatedly with swords would be a fairly sort
Yeah.
of final
Mm.
thing, but apparently not.
Might be some like smaller ones.
Yeah.
None of the big ones you would kill another opponent.
I mean, even things like your typical Double Dragon,
Yeah.
even things like that. I mean, you got to the end, beat up the bad guy, and you eventually get to the boss, but you'd always have a crappy picture of them with their teeth hanging out,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit of blood, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh, next time I'll get you," kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't even do that in those.
No.
Mortal Kombat's kind of unique in its own way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then that's their shtick. They've got to keep with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the huge
But
selling point.
But they've made the rod for their own back to the fact that with each new title, they have to keep upping
Yeah.
the
How much more gore can we get into
level
this?
of gore, the sort of shock factor of it all.
I think that's why you got such a massive kind of additional areas to invest in. Like there was, I don't know if it's called, I couldn't tell you whether it's called graveyard mode or tomb mode or whatever. There's pillars mode and there's another mode. I think they tried to entice people into having different variations of what they could do in a fighting game.
Yeah.
Because exactly what you said.
There are a load
The
of
whole
modes,
premise
in it,
of-
which is very good.
Yeah, the whole premise of gory death of people is appealing to a lot of people, but can grow fast, especially if you've done it 10 times over
Yeah.
with 10 releases. So I think that's why even with the new Street Fighter, there's quite a few modes in that, isn't there?
Well, there will be.
Well, they're supposed to
Hopefully
be.
soon.
Yeah.
But a good thing that Mortal Kombat does with their different towers, they'll do themed ones for like Halloween or recently Valentine's Day.
Right.
So there'll be like modifiers in your fight. So one of which, I can't remember what the name of it was, but there would be like candy hearts that would drop down and like hit each of you or your opponent, and like just, if you're in the middle of a combo, just knock you out of it and stuff like that. And I think that's really cool that they kind of keep updating these towers to be like little themed ones.
Yeah.
But it's good to keep, because essentially those games are going to remain more or less the same from day one.
Yeah.
With the exception of introducing new characters.
Yeah.
But there's only so many of those you can do.
Exactly.
Or new costumes, I guess there are some games that do that. Obviously, Dead or Alive is particularly famous for just producing costume pack after costume pack after costume pack for ridiculous amounts of money.
They gave away a game on Xbox One, didn't they?
Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct, that was it. Did you ever play that originally?
No, never did.
On the SNES?
I was aware of it, but I never played it.
Because that kind of had a big following for a while.
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah,
its amazing graphics.
Yeah,
Because obviously something like Street Fighter at the time was all hand-drawn.
yeah,
Then you had something like Rise of the Robots, which
Yeah.
was 3D rendered sprites.
yeah.
And then obviously Killer Instinct took it that step further,
Mm.
and it was these different characters, but they looked very, very pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know, did you ever play the one they re-released? Or because they gave it away to everybody free, didn't they?
No, they didn't. No, select people. Oh, no, you could download the game for free, but
Okay.
only with Jago, I think it was, who was the
Yeah, because it was
guest, like the
marketed as a
Ryu.
free-to-play
So
game.
free, and then
originally.
I was one of the, I don't know how many people that got the first season sort of unlocked gratis.
Okay.
I got a code to unlock it either because I'd been with Xbox for X number of years.
I thought they just gave it to everybody.
No,
eventually.
the full game was not. Sorry, the
So a demo.
basic game was free, so you could play the game but just with one character.
Okay.
But then obviously the roster was all locked away unless you bought it. So you
But
could buy
they
like a season
they did
pass.
do like the rotation, so like every week it would be a different character, but then you could only play as that person.
Oh right.
Oh, okay, so you could get through all of them eventually.
Yeah, but that was the game that I bought my Xbox One for.
Really?
But that's right. It was,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct.
But you never played the original.
No, I'd never even heard of Killer Instinct.
What made
before
you get
that.
it?
So yeah,
What made you do
I
that?
assumed you must have been a fan.
I mean, obviously,
No.
you know you like fighters. That's
Yeah, yeah.
understandable, but
It was one of the guys that I subscribed to on YouTube as I was seriously getting into fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff. It was a game that he loved, like the original Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
And it was like they're re-releasing it. I'm going to try and produce as many videos about it as possible. And just from watching that, I got really excited about it. So I was like, I am going to buy an Xbox One just for this game.
wow,
and how much have you played it?
it's not switched his Xbox on.
Yeah.
He rests his feet on it when
I
he
want to
plays
say
his PlayStation.
I've
Yeah.
probably played Killer Instinct for a total of 8 to 10 hours.
Well, that's reasonable for a
It's not
fighter.
bad for a fighting game. That's a fair amount of time.
I mean, a round is what, a minute?
Yeah,
That's a lot of rounds.
Yeah.
that's true. But that's not nearly
did
as
you
much
did
fun
you
as I
enjoy
can do.
it as much as the guy that you watched in the videos enjoyed it?
When I first started playing, no.
You're thinking, fuck.
Because mechanically it's just so different to another fighting game.
It's
Yeah.
It's
So
very
different.
basic, isn't it? From what I remember of the original.
The original would have been, but then you had fewer buttons at that point. You didn't have dual analog sticks or anything.
I
That sort of
suppose so,
nonsense,
yeah.
so it had to be a little more basic.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this you have certain moves that are openers to basically start off a combo.
Mm.
So you'll press that, then you'll have to do like a special move like quarter circle, medium punch. And then he'll do like a succession of 3 attacks. That you just do that one combination. That does 3 attacks automatically.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of do another opener into something else, which is just so different because I'm used to pressing specific buttons in a combo. So punch, kick, whatever. And
Yeah.
that does just a combo.
So does that make that more difficult?
It was just difficult to wrap my head around it because it was
Okay.
such a unusual mechanic.
Fair
to me.
enough. What is the most, in your opinion, of the games you've played, the most difficult to, and let's say, pick up and play of the beat 'em ups that you will have played?
I would honestly say Marvel vs. Capcom
Okay, and why would that be?
because that can get so technical with combos. You watch pro players playing it, they know how to do infinite combos,
Right.
so they can just keep you in the air for I think the most hits I'd ever seen was like 200 and something hits.
Right.
And then you obviously have 3 characters in a team that you play.
Yep.
So you have your main character which you use to fight, and then you can call in assists or then just switch to them.
Yep.
So you can then use your combo,
Mhm.
call in an assist to do something else, so you can carry on
Right.
without them just because there's like a certain limit after you've hit them a certain amount of times.
Yep.
They'd normally just drop out of the combo, so you can go nuts with it.
Just a question on that. Do you still have the same life bar amount, regardless of who you call in, or does that character you call in suddenly their life bar pops
Yeah.
up to full?
Exactly. So they've got their
So
own
that's how you do it.
individual life
So
bars.
3 life bars.
Yeah.
So you win by removing the 3 life bars from your opponent.
Yep.
Okay.
You have to beat each life bar, or can you just do it with one if they
You have
get
to
knocked?
beat up each opponent because as soon as you knock out one, they go, and then the next guy just jumps
Automatically
in.
jumps
Yeah.
in.
And you can switch whenever you want
Yes.
between your characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can either just hold the assist button down for that specific character and then they'll come in, or you can time it within a combo so it switches them out.
Jesus. Okay.
But that's the most technical one, and it's just my favourite.
That is your favourite.
Yeah, I love that game so much.
And then you had this on the PS3?
Yeah, because
I
I
assume?
originally had Marvel vs. Capcom, which was just the vanilla game.
Yep.
And then they brought out Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom,
Did that just add more characters?
added more characters and changed up existing characters.
Okay.
So certain moves might not do as much damage, or you can suddenly combo this into this and whatnot. And it just changed the game up quite dramatically. And it was a game, for whatever reason, the fighting game that I just clicked with fairly quickly.
Do you still play it?
I haven't played it in the longest time just because I don't have a PlayStation 3 anymore. But if I could get that game again on PS4 or Xbox, I would. But because of like licensing issues,
That must be a nightmare for that game in particular.
yeah,
I would have
because
thought.
they just took it off all like PlayStation Store and stuff, so you can't pick it up anymore.
Oh, really?
Even Marvel vs. Capcom 2 when they re-released that.
Because I had that. Yeah, I bought that on the Xbox 360,
yeah.
just as a digital download.
Yeah, I got that too. But yeah, for whatever like licensing reasons, they were like, yeah, you can't do this anymore, so you just got to take it all down.
Because it does have just a little taste of just about everything. It must
Yeah.
be just hell. How many other? Because there's Street Fighter Tekken. Or was it Tekken
no,
Street Fighter?
It's Street Fighter X Tekken.
And then they are doing another one.
Well, we haven't
Apparently.
we haven't heard anything about Tekken X Street Fighter.
And what would the
in a long
difference be?
time.
Well, beyond the fact that this would now be a next-gen title rather than a 360/PS3, or is there a reason why it is one versus the other?
Yeah, because Street Fighter X Tekken is bringing the Tekken characters
Right.
into the Street Fighter game. So graphically, it looks like Street Fighter, and
Yep.
mechanically, it plays like Street Fighter.
So even the Tekken characters will play like Street Fighter.
So they'll change like the combos that Tekken players would be used to
Right.
into like the Street Fighter way
And then the reverse, obviously,
with Tekken X Street Fighter.
assuming that comes out.
Yeah, but we haven't heard anything about that in ages. The last thing I remember seeing was probably, I want to say the start of last year, maybe even before that, was an image of Ryu.
Yep.
Graphically within the Tekken like engine,
Okay.
and that was it.
Because Tekken looked... Because they did... I'm sure they did... There was an arcade. It was a fairly big deal for Tekken... Would it be 7? Was it Tekken 7? Tekken 8?
I'm not too sure.
Whatever the most current iteration of the Tekken series was. They made a huge deal of it in all the sort of the digital press regarding this thing which looked unbelievable, but it was going into arcades in Japan. And I think this is the one that's coming to the PS4.
Oh, so the newest one at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, Tekken 7.
It is 7, okay.
Yeah.
And it looked unfucking-believable. I mean, it looked ridiculous. There's a level of detail on the skin of whoever who's the Ryu
Jin.
Jin. Okay, so I'm
Bruce
assuming
Lee
it was
looking
him. He's got tall
No.
hair.
Yeah, he's got spiky black hair.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
of...
Lee.
Yeah.
But that guy looked just sort of... It was just incredible.
Yeah,
Sort of
graphically it's looking really nice.
the way the skin... I mean, like, I was just trying to think of the opening sequence to Metal Gear Solid. My favourite thing ever. But the way that the muscles looked under the skin, you could see, and then sort of beads of sweat forming, all that sort of business.
So they made an effort.
Really made an effort. Yeah, it looked astounding. But the fact that they
Completely wasted on me, but they made an effort.
But it was the fact that they made a huge deal of this, or seemed to be making a big deal, out of an arcade game.
Yeah.
And I was like, when was the last time you ever thought about an arcade game? Obviously, it's still big in Japan. There's
I was
much
about to
bigger
say,
in Japan.
arcade games are still massive.
Because, of course, pachinko machines
Yeah.
and the like are still massive, massive business.
Mm.
So an arcade's clearly still
I
on.
guess it's because, though, with Tekken 7, it got an early release and an only arcade release over there.
Yeah.
So I guess you can't really say, this on console is great when it hasn't come out on that yet.
No.
But it's looking good, apart from one thing I'm not too happy about is they've got some weird Soul Calibur looking guy in it who's created for Tekken, but he just looks so out of place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and some over-the-top girl that has, like, some cat hat on and it comes down with, like, little kitten paws and it's all pink and cutesy and it's bullshit.
Why is that? Why is that
an
bullshit?
irritating-looking character? Because Tekken...
But they always
little more
have that in
serious?
fighting games. They name me a Street Fighter game that doesn't have some tits and arse in it. You know?
No, it's not
but
that.
this is just sort of silly,
Like,
cutesy
yeah,
nonsense.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you look at older Tekken games, within character stories, they probably have like comedic sections and stuff.
Yeah.
But they've, as far as I can think, they haven't had any over-the-top cutesy characters before. Because you've had stuff like Anna Williams, who's like a military
Secret
woman.
agent thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she like
I thought it was Nina.
there's two. Anna and Nina,
they're
they're
sisters. Oh, okay,
yeah.
right.
And they hate each other in the story, but they're like very serious. I'm going to just kick the living shit out of you.
Yeah.
Who was
Not
the
over the top
one-
cutesy people.
Who was the one with the panda?
Ling Xiaoyu.
She's all kind of cutesy, isn't she?
But she still looks like a normal looking girl. She's not like, I'm gonna wear bright pink cat hat with little paws
Oh, okay.
and pink headphones and look super adorbs. And all that bullshit.
I think that's my new ringtone.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, super adores.
But Tekken's looking good. I'm just worried, like most people in the fighting game community, it's dying.
You think?
Yeah. Because the one before that, Tekken Tag did okay.
And what was the... yeah, okay, so tag. Why was that different to just a straight Tekken
Because it's
numbered?
similar to like Marvel vs. Capcom, where you've got two people rather than
Okay.
just one-on-one.
Okay.
And it was a sequel to the Tekken Tag, which was originally on PS2.
Okay.
And mechanically, it's kind of different because you can like swap in and swap out during combos and stuff. But yeah, that one did okay, but in terms of the community and the pro scene, didn't do very well.
Do you-
So
Go on, carry on.
I was going to say, so what is the king of the pro scene?
Street Fighter
Always has been?
always has been.
And which version?
Uh,
Or is it across the board?
across the board, just like with each version that came out, that was always like the big one of like Evo. People
Right.
would go just to play Street Fighter or whatever.
So will it now be Street Fighter 5?
I'm not sure. I think I
You need to
heard
give people
recently.
some time to...
Not that. I think I heard
practice.
recently that they had to push it back, so they're not playing Street Fighter at either Evo or Capcom Pro Tour, which is another one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Just because,
That's crazy. You'd think they'd have it at that.
yeah, they would, but apparently it's just because of like bugs or some sort of issues. They're like, we might just have to delay it and not have it there.
Well, they kind of have already announced there's a ton of updates coming for it,
Yeah.
isn't there? And that's always worrying as soon as you get an announcement like that, whether it's the apparent PC version or whether it's the PS4 one. You know, I mean, I hear on the PC one, people can't even get online to play against other people.
Well, I've heard there's certainly server issues
Yeah.
that they've apologised for. Of course they have. But is this one of those situations where a game has got a release date that's been set in stone and they've been forced to get it out of the door
I think
on
so.
this date?
It's just
And
becoming
it
the
really-
norm now, isn't it?
But why not just delay it?
Because
Because people are so used to
the
this now.
games
where-
industry is full of idiots. You know,
but if
It's
you've
just-
got this situation where people know now, because it's happened too often, where a game gets released and it really shouldn't be released,
yeah,
And everyone says, well, we should have just waited another few months until it was just ready. If it happens enough, then people will just forgive you for it, rather than keep on releasing games on a date you've set months ahead of time,
Well,
only to get to that point and realise.
But they know
Shit,
that they
it's not
can
quite
just be
ready.
like, we'll just patch it later.
I know that's the downside to it these days, isn't it?
it's just a big FU to the customer. I mean, as soon as you think of your fans as customers, you've already killed off the fact that they're fans. And if you put out your products like that, you know, just like Street Fighter 5 has, it's not a poor game.
No.
You know, I mean, you can back that up. It's a good game. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some people playing it and it looks pretty damn good. But the issues that surround it, like you mentioned, Simon, it's just, you know, they obviously don't worry about a fan's thoughts on it, you know, or feelings for it, because they know the fans will always be there. So it's just the nature of it now.
But I think, Harry's right in the sense that there is also the mentality that it doesn't matter if we release this like this now, because, you know, we can just roll out a patch tomorrow, in a week, in a month, in 2 months, just to either fix what is fucked or just to add all those little bits and pieces in that, well, we should have probably put in. Had we had 6 more months to work on it, would have been there day one.
Because that's what you're seeing a lot nowadays with new releases. As soon as you put the game into your machine, you've got to probably install the game. Then you'll also have to download a day one patch.
Well, look at that. Was it that appalling abortion of a game, the Tony Hawk's
Yeah.
Pro? Was that an 8 gig?
10.
10 gig?
Yeah, the game
Patch.
on the actual load on the disc was about 4.
Yeah.
The patch was 10.7.
Which is ridiculous.
And it still didn't work.
And it was still
Still fucked.
broken.
Terrible game.
But that was something that was rushed in order to hold on to the license.
Yeah.
That was not produced to be a game.
There still
Beyond
isn't an
that.
excuse for a game to come out that's broken. I mean, especially if, you know, I mean, I can't talk about fighting games, but, you know, if there was a fight, if this Street Fighter had come out and there was a mission in it that you couldn't complete because of a bug, that's inexcusable. And I've had that in a lot of games that I really enjoy, a lot of RPGs and stuff. Fallout being one of them recently.
Yeah.
There were missions in that I couldn't do because of bugs. That's
I had one, yeah.
inexcusable.
I think the difference is with something when a game is that size and there are so many variations of who you are, what you're wearing, your companion at the time, all the other missions you've done up until that point. There are so many tiny little variations. I can understand that. It's fucking annoying. But I can forgive those little ones. There is a huge patch coming.
That's
fixing
not a
all
little
this
one
sort
when
of
you
stuff.
can't finish a mission.
No. But I can. As irritating as it is, I can get on board with. I can understand it, and I will sympathise up until a point. There was one where you had something like Metroid, that Other M, which I fucking hated. I love Metroid, but I loathed that game.
Right.
There was a bug in that which couldn't be patched. I can't remember how far through the game, but for some people, quote unquote, there was a door that you could not go through.
Right.
And that was it. Just game over. You unless you could get through that door, you couldn't move the story forward.
Could you start again and do
Yeah,
it?
start again. But this was a good way
Yeah,
into the
so
game.
most people would be...
Fuck
not
this
want-
noise. I'm outie. And it was just, that's the sort of shit where can't patch it. There's no real reason for this to be an issue because this is a linear game.
Yeah.
Really. And if you've just fucked this, then just fuck off.
I was going to say about bugs in the game. I do actually have a favourite fighting game,
Okay.
which is Fight Night. I absolutely adore that. Specifically, Fight Night 3. It's one of the best games. I think it's probably my second favourite game. I love that game. I had it on the PSP, I had it on Xbox, I got it on a PS3.
I think because it's a real sports game like that International Karate thing, I didn't even consider that. But you're absolutely right.
One of my favourite games. There's a big bug in it,
Okay.
which not a lot of people know about. When you get to a point where you've achieved the title shot in whatever division you're in, there's a press conference.
Yeah.
And it shows you a cutscene, all live in-game engine. And you're literally just being introduced and you're at this press conference and there's the opponent on one side of a table, you're on the other. And you kind of don't say anything, he might say something, but the announcer or the promoter says something to promote the fight coming up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all kind of a non-interactive thing, and then suddenly the camera will pan so you can see the guy in front of you. Now, in the game, there's certain points in the game where it goes from a third person to a first person,
Right.
and you see the boxing gloves in front of you, and you get into this point where you're in the zone, and you can literally pummel someone in that, where you can just lay shots in.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me because I wasn't used to it. I
Yeah,
actually didn't do well enough to get into that point where I'm in the zone and I'm kind of and you see it through the eyes of your boxer, which is a cool thing. It's a gimmicky thing, but it was cool if you got into it. It was cool. I didn't really ever get that too many times. But in the press conference, he literally will go straight on and face you. Now, you can put your arms up to block. Now, this is no gloves on. You're all wearing suits and whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool little gimmick in there. And he'll punch you. You can put your hands up to your guard up to, protect yourself. But in certain cases, when you first got the game before the second patch, you literally couldn't put your hands up. So he would pommel you and pommel you and pommel you. Then he would get pulled off by security guards or whatever, and then it would go to the fight. But you'd go into the fight having slight damage because of that, which was cool in a way.
Yeah.
But when they patched it, it put a patch in, and then suddenly your arms worked in the actual cutscene, interactive cutscene, where you could guard yourself.
Yeah.
Then you could protect yourself from taking so much damage. You'd always take some damage, because he would cheat and throw in a cheap shot or something like that, or an elbow or whatever. But then you'd go into the actual ring, and you'd start the fight, like a day later or in timelines or whatever, and then you'd still have a tiny bit of damage, but not as much. But you couldn't initially do it, and it was so frustrating that you'd worked your way through the fights that you'd taken, the bouts that you'd taken to get to that final shot at the title. They then threw this cheap shot in to kind of, give you sort of that Rocky impossible kind of mission that you've got to do. It was good, but then you obviously could win it if you fought well enough. But that game, man, I sweated more than the guy in the game that was boxing, because that game would really... You'd get to the end of it and they'd throw in some opponent that was insanely hard to fight. And then the worst one was that you'd get to the point, if you beat that guy, you'd then take on his opponent that beat him, and that was the King from Burger King.
What?
Because it was sponsored. All around the ring there was Burger King sponsors and Budweiser sponsors, which is what you get in real boxing.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be it. The King from... You could fight the King from Burger King.
From Burgerland.
Other burger places are available. Morgan's Burger and Chips.
I wouldn't recommend those. They're quite goaty.
Too much mayonnaise. I took that weird. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention Fight Night, because I was racking my brains about something to do with fighting that I loved, and I couldn't think of it, and suddenly it popped in there.
So you're
my
a boxing...
second favourite game ever, and I forgot about it.
But you're a boxing fan, yes?
I love boxing.
Now, you're also a Rocky fan as well.
Of course.
Did you play the Rocky games? Because they were supposed to be really good.
I forgot there was
I
even
never
a Rocky
played...
game.
I had Rocky Balboa on the PSP.
Okay.
Because I actually had Fight Night on the PSP, which I reckon is the best version.
Remember you saying?
Really amazing
Yeah.
version. I don't know why. Just works so well with those controls.
Uh-huh.
Really, really well done. The thing with that is Rocky Balboa just wasn't a touch on it, so I kind of put it in, tried it, and
Fair
took
enough.
it out, and it was just nowhere near.
I don't think it was
Fight
as
Night
good,
standards.
regardless of that, but if you're a fan of Rocky,
Mm.
I understand it was a decent go. As far as film adaptations are going to go,
It was okay.
but that sort of game would work. You think there aren't many films that really desperately work as games, as we had discussed, but that sort of would as a boxing sim.
So
So
did
that's sort
they-
of set up
Did
to
they
be
put
that.
a decent amount of effort into the game itself? Then it wasn't just like a shelled out, let's make some money off this.
No, because it was
franchise.
made for. I mean, it was made. Yeah, obviously years after the films had come out. This was before Rocky Balboa, the film, had come
Oh, okay.
to have brought it back again.
It
I think
was
it was
called
on the-
Rocky for Rocky Balboa when that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
released, but it was on. It was sort of like a last-minute thing for promotion for the movie, you know.
Was it? I thought it was before. Well before
No,
that.
because on the cover it's him as he is in Balboa.
You sure?
Yeah,
Because there were two. There was an
maybe
earlier
there's
one.
two. Then I'm
There was
thinking.
definitely an earlier
all
one.
I can think of in my head is the PSP version.
Oh, okay.
So you might be thinking of
Sure,
another
there
one
was
for a
a
different.
yeah. Sure, there was an earlier one than that.
But I
Before
do
the
remember the major thing I was so impressed by with Fight Night was the graphics were stunning. I mean,
Oh, it was incredible.
It really pushed it. The PS3 version of that showed off. I mean, that was like, I think
It was an
personally better
early
than
game.
Uncharted in terms of pushing the power of what that machine can do.
I think I remember seeing
There
stuff
was
about
sweat
it, people
marks
saying
all
how
over
good
you.
it
There was
was.
bruises. Your eye got cut. It swelled up. The cool thing with that was you were in the corners and you could be the corner man.
And heal while trying to like
Yeah,
wipe
you
away
had
and-
they're like called ice irons or cold irons,
Yeah,
and you actually use them to take swelling down. So you could use like a little Q-tip
Mhm.
with grease on it, Vaseline, and then that would seal the cut. But you'd have to take the swelling down, because if you went into the next round and didn't protect that, that would then reduce your movement within the game because your eye was swollen. So it meant that if you had a swollen right eye, you couldn't really see their left hook coming
Yeah.
in. Even though you could see it on screen, it would make your reaction to get your defense up slower, which was pretty good because it was a good way of giving you that effect, but in a third person way. Now, if they did it first person, They could obviously lower the eyelid down and
Yeah.
maybe darken off the side of the screen.
Yeah.
That would be a cool way of maybe removing some of the vision. But you tended to fight all the time in third person, so that's how they did it. They kind of limited your ability to react so quickly. But yeah, I mean, graphically that game was stunning. I mean, you had sweat rolling down you had really well done texture mapping.
Yeah.
You just felt like you're in the moment, and then it kind of got progressively worse. I mean, that team is now UFC.
Yes.
That's what they make. I just can't get into that because that's gone from a game where I absolutely adore it. Then Fight Night 4, which was pretty poor, went a bit caricature. Fight Night Champion had a slightly good story mode.
Yeah.
It was okay, but the fight mechanic was just balls. Then it went to UFC, which was very successful.
Really
because
good.
UFC became very successful.
Yeah.
And UFC 2, and then there's a third one coming out. And at that time,
UFC 2 is the one that's just
Yeah.
is
about
that
to come
coming out? Is it?
Yeah.
And then you had a lot of things like Pride Fighter,
There was another.
Undisputed.
Yeah.
A lot of titles like that. Well, I think Undisputed was before UFC, and then Undisputed
Yeah.
became UFC, I think.
Yeah, because that was on like 360. And
Yeah, I
stuff.
believe so. But there's a lot of those titles, and they seem to still be there, quite popular. But they now have gone full circle into almost like a Street Fighter game where you have to know your combos. I understand that that's how the fight will happen, where you'd have to know all your arm bars and your pulls and your grappling and things like that. Fair enough. You'd have to know how to get into those positions to do it. But it's kind of removed the element for me, that really got me into it.
Could you see, essentially, we were talking about virtual reality.
Yeah.
Virtual reality. Yeah, we were talking about virtual reality earlier today, and with the fact that it's going to be with the Move controllers from the PlayStation 3 Move controllers.
Yeah.
I remember Wii Boxing. You may have played.
Oh, God.
Do you not remember the PlayStation boxing one?
I don't. But can you see? I'm sure it's shite.
It was. I have a story for that.
But can you see potentially a place where you might enjoy let's say a Fight Night 5 or whatever it would be called, but done with let's say a Sony VR headset, a Move controller in each hand.
But it hands itself to that.
But would that not? It's one of those things that you could do it, but would that not be potentially too tiring or irritating by the fact that you've essentially got to do the boxing?
Well, why
Properly
not?
the
I
boxing.
mean,
But
what
keep
better way to
fit.
be immersed in that?
Oh, absolutely! It'd be
in
incredibly
that whole
immersive.
thing. And obviously you could, maybe you only have to do 3 rounds. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
to go 12 rounds.
Yeah.
You'd be a sweaty mess on the floor.
Is that how long a boxing fight can go on for?
Well, it used to go on longer than that back in the day before they started protecting people.
That's ridiculous.
But 12 rounds is the fight. Well, there are like 1 minute and 2 minute rounds. There's different variations of what minutes you have. So if it's like an international bout, like the Olympics, then there's shorter rounds, much
Right.
shorter. And if you're a youth boxer, or you're a welterweight, sometimes the rounds might be shorter just purely on the size of the boxer or the skill level.
Okay.
Or the protection level. There's a lot of things they take into account. But yeah, you are still knocking 7 bows out of each other.
Yeah.
But that lends itself to VR.
Yeah.
I'd love to try that, something like that. Having said that, I was going to say, the camera, the eye camera,
Yeah.
my friend bought one for his PS2. And every time we'd go around and play Pro Evo all the time when we'd get back from the pub, lots of that. And he said, I've got something new to try. It's this eye camera, and I've got 2 Move controllers. We can play things like Wishy Washy, where you have to wash a windscreen, your television, to get rid of the bubbles off it. But there's also a boxing one, which you might like. You fight a robot. Here's my controller, and you need the other one, so you fight it. And by the end of about 10 minutes, I was this topless, sweaty, messy, wheezing ball on the floor fighting this 2D shit robot that looked like something from a 1980s cartoon, like Battle of the Planets. Oh, my mates pointed at me and laughed as they stuffed chips from the kebab shop in their mouth. And I enjoyed every minute of it. And then I went home in shame. But yeah, that was the only time I was thinking, because you used the same move controls to do that, but obviously the camera picked you up.
Yeah.
And it was about as responsive as... Well, it wasn't. It didn't work. It
It
was
was
shite.
not responsive.
Well, I was going to
Responsive
say,
as fuck.
there was a game that came out for Xbox One, which was Fighters Uncaged, I want to say.
I know the name.
That
that was one of the. It was
broken
almost a
as-
launch.
broken
title.
as
fuck, wasn't it?
Connect-only game.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it looked fucking crap.
Did
Yep.
you ever see the bugs in that with the actual like when it had collision damage in it, so when it connected, it was supposed to have a ragdoll effect on the person you were hitting.
Right.
So obviously you'd do the gesture, the camera would pick it up, and then the fighter would replicate it. But there were moments where the actual character would hit the side of the opponent. The polygons would mesh somehow,
Yeah.
and then it would stretch out the leg of your leg that would stay there as the other character backed off after they'd been hit as they staggered. But your leg would keep stretching, but your character would stay where they were. And then the physics would go, fuck this, crazy times, and then your leg would start spinning
Yeah.
in some kind of random way. There was a lot of that. Waist twisting around, like you'd try and walk backwards, but your whole waist would turn, but your legs would face
Yeah.
forwards. So you'd be some kind of... Your legs were bent the wrong way around, but you'd still be able to walk back and forth. It was
There
just...
was similar stuff like that
So many bad
when
things in
UFC first came out.
Yeah.
Like if you tried to grapple someone on the floor and then somehow like your legs were up above their head and the head was in their waist and God knows what. It looked like something out of a horror film, but...
That was just you and Simon.
And
But before you sat down to play UFC...
that was the inspiration.
Simon said, let's play Twister with a difference.
That's why his nips are so long. It's just physics.
It's just
just bad
crappy
polygon
physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing of it.
Are your nipples sponsored by Capcom?
No, unfortunately not. Burger King.
Burger King. Thought so. I wonder why they had little beards.
And they're just big enough so you can get a bun round them as well.
Just tweak it on there.
That's the plan.
Anyway, do you have a favourite fighting game? You're into this more than I am. The only one I like because of the sports aspect was the one I mentioned. But do you have something that kind of grips you and you enjoy?
Yeah,
Stop
him.
pointing at Harry.
No, I don't know, not really. I suppose Street Fighter, just by virtue of the fact I threw sort of rose-tinted glasses. I spent so much time
What, as a
playing
youth
it.
playing
Yeah,
it?
yeah, just like with mates.
Mm.
Just sitting around playing that for hours and hours until we moved on to, GoldenEye. You move on the other generation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that just took its place completely.
Was this Street Fighter 2 then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Street Fighter 2. I don't really think there's anything that I really, really like. I played a fair amount of Dead or Alive, admittedly,
Yeah.
but I didn't really enjoy that hugely. I think, it would be Street Fighter for me, just
for the volleyball.
only for the volleyball.
Only for the volleyball.
Because I know you will import, of course, Dead or Alive Extreme 3, 4, whatever the fuck it's called.
Mm. Massively into volleyball.
That one, just because obviously it's the only next-gen volleyball game available.
Yep.
PS4 version, and I dare say we'll get the Vita version as well.
Yeah,
Get the pair of them.
I will.
Lovely pair. Don't get many of them to the pad. But that would be, I think that would be it. So your favourite, obviously Fight Night for yourself.
Yep.
And then what was your favourite again? Oh yeah,
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Marvel v Capcom.
Isn't that like ridiculously hard to get hold of and stupidly expensive?
Yeah, now,
As
because
a consequence now, I guess it must be.
because that's why I was so happy when my brother got me Ultimate Marvel for like my birthday or Christmas. I was just so over the moon.
Yeah.
Sat there tweaking his nips.
Yeah.
Hours.
All three of them.
You got 3 arms. Or did someone help you with the third one?
Someone helped me.
Okay.
Sigh.
Got the cat.
Yeah. But the best Street Fighter game, even though we've got Street Fighter 5 that just came out and it is mechanically really good,
Yeah.
has to be Third Strike, Street Fighter 3. It was the
Now, why is that?
because I just really enjoyed how it looked. It was just like the old like 2D sprites before, like
It was quite retro.
yeah, because it
wasn't it?
was just Street Fighter 3, but they re-released it on PlayStation and Xbox.
Okay.
But especially the parrying mechanic. So at the moment of like a punch or
You
a
mean,
kick,
like a counter, you mean?
yeah.
Okay.
So at the moment of like some impact of a punch or a Hadouken or something, if you just moved your analog stick or arcade stick towards your opponent, you just like parry the move.
Oh, okay.
And there was like a certain
Regardless of if it's a kick or a punch or...
just whatever it is. If something hits you, the moment of impact, you move towards the opponent. You'll just parry it, and you won't take any damage.
And did they animate the actual block where the kick was or the punch was coming from?
It wasn't like specific to where it hit you. It'd just be like
So it was kind of like a gesture to
Yeah.
show a block.
yeah, and there was like a noise that would go off. Once
Yeah,
you
because
triggered it.
you always had those kind of little flashes of either blue or red. And
Yeah,
red
yeah.
was like a contact and blue was like you blocked.
Yeah, But there was a really good sequence or a YouTube video I'd seen from an Evo tournament a while back with one of the big Street Fighter guys called Daigo.
Okay.
And it was him playing against a small-time guy at the time called Justin Wong.
This is in a tournament.
This is in a tournament. And Daigo does a combo and then does his ultra, and this guy Justin Wong manages to parry the entire ultra and then just wreck this guy.
And that's,
And
what, impossible, is it?
It's not impossible, it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And at the time...
Difficult because of the timing or the button
The
combination? The timing specifically.
Yeah, because the ultra super move did like 5 or 6 hits, so you'd have to go towards each hit and try and do it in a sequence. And the crowd in the room just goes nuts, and it was just like made my hair on my arms stand on end, and it was just so cool. And that got me into Third Strike, and just that mechanic is really good.
Is that in 5?
In a way.
In a way.
One of the characters, because they've introduced different V skills, they're referred to as.
Right. Yeah.
So each character, if you press circle and triangle, has their own ability. And I want to say it's Ryu that has the parry ability.
So they just took it away from the rest.
Yeah.
So you think that makes the game a tougher, or do you think it's to its detriment that they've removed what you think is a very good feature?
It's difficult to say, because the fact that each character in Street Fighter V has their own unique one, it opens up...
There's kind of negatives and positives to it.
Yeah, because it makes the characters feel different enough, even though they've got their own unique moves anyway, but it adds more to each character. But I still think it's just a great mechanic, because it was very skillful if you, in an online fight, managed to parry quite a good number of your opponent's hits and then just beat them.
Yeah.
But that's my favourite Street Fighter just because of that mechanic alone.
Well, this guy that obviously counted every Ultra must have known the moves for every character, I guess, to be able to
Well, the
counter
pro
it.
players try to. They try and learn every
Sequence.
move from every character so they know what to do against said character.
Well, the only reason I mention it is because I was watching a video. You know, we were talking about Twitch in our last episode, and they do a lot of charity work. They did a 24-hour marathon of speed runs, and one of the guys that was doing it was an expert at Punch-Out. Do you remember Punch-Out in the arcade where you had two arms that used to move out and you could turn the whole cabinet around left or right, and you were fighting as a kind of green wire mesh man that you could see through and then see your opponents come to you, and they're all different caricatures of people. One of them was Mike Tyson. That was the thing. Basically, they did that on your console. I think it became Super Punch-Out. Well, he learned every move for every fighter in it. Yeah, he learned every move for every fighter, and then he learned every sequence they would do when you fought them, because you always play as the same up-and-coming fighter in it. And he did from start to finish in what I think maybe half an hour. No, it's probably half an hour. He did every single fight blindfold, so just remembering every single move, and he listened. And muscle memory taught him, and listening taught him whether they were swinging, whether they were ducking, whether they were stepping back. They're cheat moves that they do. And then he fought them back and just did every single kind of knockout move, every KO perfectly. I think there was one time where he went to 3 rounds with some guy who was like the last level boss. And he was saying as he was doing it, I think you'll see on the clock it says 31, 28, 16 when I knocked this guy out. And then he knocked him out, and it said 38, 21, 16. This guy had played it so much that he knew when the times would happen, from the bell ringing to what sequence the opponent would throw. Did the whole thing, and he did it in his fastest time ever. I think it was like a record or something like that. But just to see this guy, and he's looking at the floor, and he's got like an old controller in his hand, and he's literally just listening. The crowd of guys behind him are just going insane at what they're actually seeing. It was one of the most impressive things I've seen. For a guy to do that for fighting games, but to remember every sequence, I can't even do any special moves in any fighting game.
QTE comes up.
Oh
my
god!
3 buttons in a sequence.
Yeah, I mean,
boned.
I might still lose at a QTE in something like The Order.
Yeah,
when you fight the boss in that, and that's literally 3 button presses. I'll still die. Whereas I look at Harry and I think, how the hell do you remember?
Well, I'm not
just to do that kind of sequence of button presses to achieve that.
I've never, one of those things with beat 'em ups, that's almost the reason why I never got into them or couldn't get into them, because I could never remember all the moves.
But that's the thing. I don't try and study all the characters because I know that's just way too much for me. So I'll just dabble with the new characters till I find one that I think I could probably do okay with, and then I just stick with them for as long as possible, and then just try and learn their moves.
I was going to say, who is your favourite then? And how many moves do you know of that character?
What, in 5?
Oh, in all of the Street Fighters, the one that you play the most, who is your favourite in that? So Marvel versus Capcom.
Well, my team in that was usually Wolverine, Doctor Doom, Hawkeye.
So was there a specific reason for picking those, or is it just that you gelled with their movesets?
Doctor Doom I picked because he was the one that had a really cool infinite combo.
Okay.
And then the other guys I just kind of felt comfortable playing as them, and I like their assists and stuff. But it's just a case of, especially with fighting games, just sticking to certain characters you like and then just playing them for as long as you can so you can figure out their moves and stuff like that.
I noticed you didn't pick any Street Fighter characters.
No.
Why is that?
They play very much like Street Fighter characters, and that doesn't really work all that well for me
Right.
in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Okay.
But there are some people that will play a team that will have like Chun-Li in it and they'll do really well, but that's just not one of my characters that I'd go to.
Not E Honda.
He's not in Marvel vs. Capcom, but no.
Not a favourite of yours.
I
I would never go with E
thought
Honda.
he'd be on the cover, surely, with his 100.
He was on that Street
100
Fighter
hand slap.
Tekken, wasn't he?
Tekken X, Street Fighter X Tekken?
Yeah,
Possibly.
sure he is.
I think you should make him your new favourite.
Never.
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 Is this bitterness from last time?
No, I just don't like E Honda.
We're getting to about an hour and 50 minutes, so we need to
Do a quiz.
close this down. Is there anything else desperately that you've got down that we haven't discussed that you'd quite like to talk about as far as beat 'em ups are concerned?
Couple of quick things. NetherRealm Studios, what a bunch of wankers. Because obviously with the new Complete Edition, so it gives you the game and then the 2 DLC packs, PC players aren't getting the new DLC pack. They're just saying no.
Are they giving a reason for
No,
this?
the only thing that was put by the community manager was just saying it's exclusive to Xbox One and PS4, but no reason as to why it can't come to PC.
Would there be a reason?
I don't see why that would.
But isn't Mortal Kombat still broken on PC?
No, they patched it a lot because
Okay.
obviously it was buggy as hell when it first came out on PC.
So much of this recently, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
But yeah, there's no reason as to why, as far as I'm aware. And then they've also done like some reworking with the online servers, which, as far as I'm aware, that's not coming to PC either.
Is it
coming to
cross-play
console.
at all? If you're playing on PC, is it just
No.
PC versus
Street
Yeah,
Fighter
PC?
is.
Yeah, Street
was
Fighter
both,
5
isn't it?
Street Fighter 5 is crossplay.
Are there
When
many
it- when
games that
it
do that?
works.
Yeah, when you can get on. Are there many games that do that?
I can't
Not
think
many.
of any others.
Very rare these days.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very rare.
And then my other point is, obviously with Street Fighter 5, one of the things that people were hoping for was being able to use their like arcade sticks and stuff from PS3 to PS4.
I thought you
It doesn't
could.
work, does it?
It does.
On.
PS4, so you can use your arcade sticks.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of PC then.
Oh, no,
Are we
no,
talking
we-
about?
Probably could on PC as well.
No, apparently I was reading it today. It's got the icons to show that it's an Xbox. Sorry, it's the Xbox controller. It's not supported apparently
Oh, okay.
by Street Fighter 5, even though all the icons suggest that when you and key bindings and whatever button
Yeah, yeah.
bindings all indicate that they've set it up when they were developing it with an Xbox controller in mind, but it doesn't actually support it.
Okay.
Can you use a PS4
Even though it-
controller on a PC?
Yeah, yeah.
You can. Okay.
Yeah. But before it came out, people knew it was possible to get an arcade stick or whatever from PS3 to work on a PS4.
Right.
Because a small team behind an indie fighting game called Skullgirls,
I know that.
yeah, they managed to make it themselves for their re-release of the game on the PS4.
It did quite well, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So because of that, Street Fighter 5 on PS4, you can now use your older controllers and stuff on it, which is really good.
And that's because of them.
Because of them.
Oh,
It's
wow. That's
ridiculous,
very good.
isn't it, that things like that happen?
Yeah.
That a small indie guy.
They were just dedicated to
Team.
be like, we want this to be able to work, so we're going to figure out in our own time how to get it
Would
to
that
work.
have just been sort of brazen monetarisation, just wanting people to fork over for a new fighting stick?
Yeah.
Because they knew full well people would.
Yeah.
Sick, isn't it?
It's all they'll do it for. Why give people the easy option of using what they've already got when you could sell a new peripheral.
Exactly.
Because we were talking about this with the virtual reality, the VR, Sony VR.
Yeah.
The fact that they will move with the old PlayStation 3 Move controllers.
Yeah.
Now, you could pick those up in
Bins.
your local in bins, but you could pick them up probably at the moment from game stores or similar for relative peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not
But
expensive.
But I dare say they are going to be pulled from the shelves in order to be.
Oh, they'll do a bundle or something, and then they'll do all the accessories,
And they'll just
you
put
won't
the
be able
price
to
But
get
Yeah,
they'll,
it.
anyway.
but they'll hike the
Yeah.
price
It'll be
up.
Move 2 or something.
But it's the same shit.
Yeah, it's the exact same. Move
You need
controllers.
the same PlayStation camera, and you need the Move controllers.
What
for
do you
the
do? A
PlayStation
PS3 camera?
It'll
be the new
be a
one.
PS4 camera.
Yeah.
It'd be that.
Yeah.
But the PlayStation Move controllers themselves are just the exact same ones from PS3.
I'm just wondering if the PS4 camera's got enough in it to actually deal with what they're trying to do.
Apparently, what it does, but this is what you will need.
I mean, I hear it's a very good camera in terms of its quality, but whether its technology that's included is anywhere near like you might find in the Kinect.
Or I don't
don't
think
know.
no, but I think it obviously works in conjunction with the tech in the VR headset.
Well, you'd
Yeah.
think that would probably be doing most of the hardware.
Yeah, I think it will be because
Yeah.
I don't know that they would have. I guess they must have been working on the VR in some capacity when the PlayStation 4 was rearing its head
Yeah,
along with
like
the camera.
early stuff.
Must have been very early stuff. So they must have known ahead of time.
Well, let me ask both of you then. I mean, especially to you, Harry. We suggested a fighting game. I'd love a boxing game in first person. That's just me. But predominantly, most fighting games are all third person. So a VR first person fighting game, that's the only way they can do it. Would that float your boat or not interested?
Not at all.
Not at all.
We looked at that. We talked about it again briefly in
We
the
did have a
violence
mention
about
set,
it in the
didn't we?
violence
And it just
set.
the fact that it would be so.
Because
There was something different about you see it in third person.
Well, you mentioned it would be overly realistic. I
They do it in
would
first
like
person.
that immersion, but you never said whether you'd be.
But it'd be
be
too
up
difficult.
for
I
it.
think it'd be just difficult to do the moves and the combos and
Yeah.
the jumping and all that sort of
Well, it
stuff.
would completely remove most of the gameplay mechanics from a game like
Yeah.
Street Fighter because you'd have to do it
So I think
on the fly.
Boxing would work,
Yeah,
Boxing would
definitely.
work.
but a
UFC
fighting game.
possibly, but then you'd have to. I can't see you rolling around on
That's
the floor.
the issue. Yeah,
Trying
yeah.
to put some kind of
Grappling a
angle
pillow.
headlock.
Although
on.
I would love to just see the footage. I wouldn't want to see what's going on in the game.
just
You know,
someone
let's
playing
play of that. So you just have a tiny screen
I mean,
of
that's-
whatever they're playing, and the reverse. So 90% of the screen is this person just rolling around, flailing their limbs around.
Like Star Wars Kid.
Yeah, with a toilet seat bolted to their head.
I mean, it's
That
going to be
removes
weird
me
for you, isn't
usually.
it? You'll go home, put your console on, have a game of UFC, roll around on the floor.
Yeah.
Then Harry will pop round, you get the twister out, and then roll around on the floor to relax. I mean, you're doing the same thing over, but just one's on a headset and one's just.
And different
Not.
outcomes.
Well, you win.
Sweaty mess at the end.
You're winning one of
admittedly.
them.
That's true.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. But you dead against.
Yeah,
You're
I just
dead
don't.
against it.
In my head, I don't see how it's going to work.
No, it's not got. You can't be. It wouldn't be fast enough.
No,
No.
It wouldn't be. I mean,
Not
for a
yet.
boxing, it would have to be quick just for that. But even so, there is some giving, some leeway in that. But with a Street Fighter game, I mean, with the amount of muscle memory combos you've got to do and put into it, first person to do that, God, that would be crazy.
I suppose the only way it would work is if you had those. I don't know what you call it now, but you have the sort of suits that respond to your movement.
Okay,
That might work if you sort of did a Hadouken
yeah,
motion, but even still, the whole
you have to
jumping
dress
thing,
up like
Exactly.
a lawnmower man now.
that sort of thing,
So we all become Jeff Fahey for the evening,
that would be an awful
and
thing.
Mr. Bronson,
Brosnan,
Bronson, or not Charles Bronson,
That'd be a very
Mr. Pierce
different
Brosnan,
yeah,
and
and starring a
hang
shit film.
ourselves from a ceiling in some harnesses to play Street Fighter virtual.
doesn't
Mm.
sound fantastic at
I mean,
all.
they
doesn't
have
really.
tried it, haven't they? We mentioned it with the Xbox game. What was it? Fighters Uncaged.
Oh, right,
that was
yeah.
it. That was a failure. So
I think the danger with that is because obviously with that you had two people, two kids or whatever, fighting each other.
Yeah.
But then it would just turn to them fighting each other.
that would
In
be
the living
insane.
room.
Just
That's the
go
whole
for a
the whole-
high kick, shoulder drop, and you take out your brother.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, they wouldn't want that. The idea is that you want them fighting with control sticks or controllers
Yeah.
rather than just beating the tar out of each other. Because then what's the point of the video game? You don't need the video game. Why did we spend £400 on this fucking Xbox and Kinect when we could have just let them loose at each other?
Yeah, we could have just built a big pit in the back garden.
Yeah, throw 'em in. I mean, we could charge people for this.
Mm,
Ridiculous.
get some bears.
Well, yeah, why not?
Anything. Robots. a angry unicorn with
Panda.
boxing gloves on.
Drunk panda.
Yeah, drunk Harry. He's violent when he's had a few.
Man alive. You wouldn't believe it.
You don't want to.
He's got a temper on him.
Yeah.
Goodness me. After he's had a glass of eggnog at Christmas.
Whoa,
So when he had that wine gum, I ran. I literally moved countries.
some strong stuff.
Mm.
Well, he's a tiny guy.
Yeah.
Can't
And that
tolerate
wine
it.
gum was 6 feet
He's still got bits of it.
on his head.
Oh, that's the third nip. There again, it just peels off.
Well, so it's a bit of wine gum.
That's all it was.
Oh,
Oh, thank God.
don't
Oh.
eat it
Why not?
because
Save it for later.
we need the planet to live.
Anyway, before this descends into too
Before-
sordid corner.
Before.
Yeah, okay. Let's have a quiz.
Oh God.
Let's have a quiz. Why not?
Is
a
it
quiz.
is it fighting based?
Not all fighting based.
I feel like I'm going to
Harry.
be bad.
I'm going to shake your hand now. Well done.
Thank you.
It's sort of there'll be fighting. Now, one question we have already had answered over
Which
the
one was
course,
it?
but only one. Well, when we go through the quiz, we'll go through it. Now, you
I
will
hope my memory works.
you will require obviously. Oh, you got
I've
some
got a
paper
bit of
there,
paper,
but
but
you will require
I'll
an
need
implement.
To write on something, can I use this card?
Yep.
I
Fine.
have an implement.
Are you? You don't have your own.
I'm going to use this goat blood I found. You still keep that goat here. It's handy when you need it.
Well, yeah. Somebody keep your quill.
Yeah.
I feel like these are going to be difficult.
Then, well, no, not necessarily. Now, I have got 20 questions,
Oh my god.
but obviously one of them's already been answered. So we'll go through as many as we can.
Okay.
Now, the first question actually is the one that we have already answered, so
Okay.
we'll skip it. But the question would have been, what was the first game to introduce parrying in fighting games?
Damn it.
And you'll remember the answer.
It's a Street Fighter one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Harry said it. Oh, this isn't going well already, and it's
Harry,
already been mentioned.
Put him out of his
No,
misery.
I know it. I'm just gonna say X-Zero.
Go on.
Well, no.
All right then. He's not even gonna tell me. Fuck it.
It's Third Strike.
There you go.
Oh man.
Okay, so question
Was
2.
there a Street Fighter X-Zero?
There was a Street Fighter EX.
I was so close.
Well, you were so close to just naming a Street
Yeah.
Fighter game,
Yeah.
at least. Okay, question 2. What was the first fighting game to introduce tag team gameplay?
Oh,
We've
no.
probably said this as well. Tag team.
I might change my answer later. I'm not sure.
Might change it later. Okay, have you got an answer down, Tom?
I'm gonna put.
You got something down. There are words written down.
I'm just gonna put that. Yep.
Okay. Who was the first Street Fighter character to be given a last name? So a surname.
I don't know. I've got. I don't know when he was added though, so I'm not sure. Possibly. Okay. I don't know. I
I
feel
was
like
just writing random words, I imagine.
I've written something.
You've got something down. Well, that's good. Vega, the Matador type character,
Yeah.
was originally conceived as what? So, for instance, like a fireman or a
matador.
priest, before he was a matador, he was designed to be originally, the original concept.
Oh my god! I'd never heard of this before.
Oh, I think I know it.
Oh! Now, this next one, I've actually got 2 answers.
So do you need both answers?
No. It's
Okay.
one of those ones that, depending on the source I went to for the question, it gave there were like 2 separate
Okay.
2 answers. They're very, very close. Street Fighter is the most prolific fighting video game series. So, excluding compilations, how many have there been?
Excluding compilations.
So, it's when a Street Fighter game has been included in a compilation of other
Two
video
bundled
like-
games together.
SNK or something.
that sort of thing. So, how many Street Fighter games
Oh, okay.
have there been in total?
And this is including like Ultra and
all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Now, because I have 2 answers depending on where I would have gone to. So I'll say within 10.
Well, there we go.
Now, this next one, I don't think Harry's going to know, even though he's a fan of Street Fighter, because I had no idea about this one.
Yeah.
What was the first sequel to Street Fighter actually called? And you get 10 points if you get this one right.
I feel like I actually know this. I probably don't know.
It's worth 10 bonus
Mother
points.
Fifer.
How many Street Fighter characters had there been across all games?
Including...
Oh man.
Just the total number of Street Fighter characters that have appeared in the Street Fighter series.
Okay.
Again, to the nearest 5.
5.
Well, just you got to get sort of close enough.
I'll go with that.
That'd be bang on.
There we go then. Fine.
Resident Evil is number 1 on the sort of total sales of Capcom's franchises
Okay.
at 66 million. Street Fighter is number 2 with 37 million.
Wow, I thought it'd be the other way around.
What is Capcom's third best-selling franchise? And a bonus point if you get to within a million of whatever that total is.
But you want the title of the franchise.
Just the total of the franchise. The
but
total of the
you get a
franchise
bonus
is the
point
point.
if we
Bonus
get-
point if you get within a million of whatever those total sales are.
I'm going to say that.
Next question.
I'm confident.
Okay.
Well,
Right. Street Fighter, Tekken, Souls, as in Soul Calibur,
Yeah, yeah,
Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat.
yeah.
They're the best-selling fighting series.
mm-hmm.
Rank them from best-selling to least-selling.
Okay. So I'm going to go that one.
This is a tough one.
Oh, God. I was thinking of Smash TV. You said Smash Brothers, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. This changes everything.
It shouldn't really.
Because I've introduced a 6th one.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 arcade machines. How many quarters had been pumped into them over the years? To the nearest 10 million.
Is this just based in America?
No, this is worldwide.
I'm not confident with most of my answers, if I'm completely honest.
That's okay.
I'm going to say that. Join the dumb club with me.
Okay,
'Cause
so
that's where I'll be sitting
little
in
more-
Dunce's corner.
Little more generic now. Little more generic. Pac-Man sits at the top of the most arcade units sold at 400,000. Street Fighter sits in the top 10, but at what point in the top 10?
So Pac-Man's number 1.
Pac-Man is number 1. So you've got to think of all the classic arcade machines that have been knocking around. So things like Donkey Kong and Centipede and Space Invaders, Asteroids, and so on and so on.
Okay.
Where would Street Fighter sit in that top 10?
This is like a trick question. I'm going to go with that.
You know it's not number 1. It's the only thing I can tell you.
Oh, fuck. I've got to
yeah.
change my answer.
Jesus Christ,
Fuck it.
man.
Okay?
Go on.
Which of these is a genuine arcade game from that top 10? Okay? And your choices are Moondragon 3, Planet Cat 7, Earth Tiger 4, Star Horse 2, Galaxy Monkey 8, or Nebula Shark 17. One of those is a genuine top 10 arcade machine sold ever.
This is a total guess.
I would imagine it would be. I've never heard of this game.
No.
I had to look it up. I thought, well, this is a mistake, clearly. Apparently it's not. The introduction of what arcade game caused a massive coin shortage? This was
worldwide?
specifically in Japan.
Okay.
But the game you will know.
This takes the piss.
What is the name of the Urban Legend arcade machine?
What was the name of the urban legend?
It's a famous urban legend about a series of arcade machines that turned up in America in the, I think it was the early 80s.
Right.
And they produced, apparently, night terrors, and the Men in Black would sort of stand around
Oh, God.
while kids
that
played on them.
I have no
bloody
idea.
thing.
Literally never heard of anything like
Have
this.
you not?
No.
It's a really
I do know
interesting
this
story.
rumour, but
Yeah,
I
it's
never looked
it's
into
a
it.
fascinating story. What is widely believed to be the first arcade coin-up to feature co-op play?
I'll go with that. I will go with that.
Oh, I have no idea.
What is regarded as the first arcade game?
Holy cow.
What is regarded as the first video game of any description?
Of course he fucking knows. Just right and straight away.
I made it.
What is the total cost of the Dead or Alive 5 DLC at present? It's in dollars, by the way.
Dollars?
Just in dollars.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
We'll say to the nearest $20.
Okay, I'll go with that.
How many copies of Tetris have been sold across all platforms
Fuck.
to date? To the nearest 10 million.
I can't do that many zeros. I'm glad this is the last fucking question.
There we
Fuck
go.
this quiz already.
There we go. And the last one, there is a correct answer for this. Harry, you ready?
I know what the question's going to be. I'm going to write my answer.
Okay, you write the answer down ahead
Yeah.
of time.
I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to say.
This has been so tough.
I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I'm looking at you in the face, and I'm reading your eyes. So I'm going to say that. I know what the question is.
The question is, would you like it cheese and toasted?
And there is a correct answer.
Yes, there is a correct answer.
But I feel like this is a trick question. Because I know my answer.
I tell you what I wrote.
Go on.
I wrote tuna melt. I knew it was going to be a toasted sandwich question. I knew it.
There we go. Right.
I just saw
You don't need to stare at the... You need to do it to write anything down.
saw
Harry, to be honest.
Simon's nipples quiver under his shirt, and I knew there was a sandwich-based question.
Yeah. So the first question, which is number one, what was the name of the first fighting game to introduce tag team gameplay? Go on.
I went with King of Fighters.
King of Fighters, and you went with...
Well, Marvel vs. Capcom.
You're pretty close. It's X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Well, that wasn't the one I was
Okay.
going to get right anyway.
First Street Fighter character to be given a last name.
Go on.
E-Honda?
Perry Chump.
Perry Chump.
Mm.
No, it was Ken. Ken Masters.
Ken Masters. What, from Howard's Way?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in Street Fighter.
Bonus DLC, hidden.
I'm closing the yard. Tom. Ken.
Vega
No one will get
Vega was originally conceived as a what? Now you thought you knew this.
Ballet dancer.
Okay.
I genuinely didn't know.
What did you put? You put anything down at all?
No.
No. He was a knight.
Oh, fuck that. Knight. Dances around like a big codpiece wearing ballet dancer.
Yeah. But he was originally a big ballet dancing knight.
That's.
I changed my answer for this one, but I'm really worried I've fucked it up.
I've just ticked that. I don't know why. I'll take Perry Chump as well.
That's pretty close. I
Perry
might give
Chump.
you half a point for that.
Fuck off.
Okay, all right.
Is he eating that wine gum again?
Street Fighter is the most prolific fighting video game series, excluding compilations. How many have there been?
I changed my answer, but I wish I just left it as it was.
Okay, what have you now written down?
Pick one.
25.
25?
9 I went with.
127 or 133?
I thought you said, like, the nearest 5 or something for that one.
Yeah, to the nearest
How
five.
many Street Fighter games?
Yeah. How many Street Fighter video games?
Are you
have there
counting
been?
like if there's Street Fighter on the Game Boy and then there's Street Fighter on the SNES? That counts
every
as the same
every
release?
iteration of Street Fighter 5 there has been?
Oh, I thought you just meant as in each title that's been released, whether it's on a different platform or what.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I thought that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't... Oh.
So you meant every one? Well, I'll just add a 0 on and put 90 then.
Okay, so you
That
got
work?
90. So what did you put if you put a 0 on it?
250.
So you got 2,000 or 250.
250. Okay, we'll give you half point each because obviously
That question's
that was a tricky one. Okay.
KO'd me.
What was the first sequel to Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter,
'Cause-
actually called?
Because I read this earlier, I'm sure I did, but I couldn't remember.
Okay, so what have you written down?
I just wrote Hyper Fighting. It was something that didn't have Street Fighter in the name.
Yeah, that's right.
But
What did you put?
Oh, I got that wrong then.
So what did you put?
I just put Street Fighter Turbo.
No.
It was actually called Human Killing Machine.
Fucking hell.
How many Street Fighter characters have there been across all games?
I
Well,
guess.
if there's now 100 and fucking shitloads of titles,
Yeah, but
then there's going to
characters will...
No, because most
return.
of it's obviously reusable.
I feel like it's
etc.
more than this.
Gone.
40?
Okay, and
be 65.
98.
Yeah, I knew it would be.
You know, my first one was 80. I put 80 for
Okay.
my first.
You get half because you were closest. You were closest without going over.
Do I get a half?
I'll
do
give you
I?
half of that. Yeah. You're closest.
Holy cow!
I'm just shit at quizzes.
Am I going to
realising this
beat
now.
you by half a point? That's
Resident
the highest
Evil is number one on Capcom's franchises total with 66 million. Street Fighter at 37. What was their third best-selling franchise?
My mind went blank. I just couldn't think of fucking Capcom games.
I put Dead Rising.
I put Dead Rising.
Well, I think that was fourth. I
Oh,
think,
fucking
actually, now.
hell!
Monster Hunter.
How many did you put?
20 mil,
I put 21 million. Oh my god!
but it was wrong.
36 million
For what?
so, for Monster Hunter.
What about Dead Rising? I bet it's
not on
20.
it. No, it was further down. It was like 6 or 7.
I tell you what, Harry, we'll just say we're right and say that number 4 was.
I can't believe I didn't get Monster Hunter.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised you. Yeah, I can just forget
How
it's
many
Capcom.
did you put Dead Rising
Maybe.
as well?
That's quite weird, isn't it?
And then I put 21 million and he put 20.
And then my order, there's 3 and 4. I feel like I could switch, but I'm going to leave it how it is. I
Okay,
don't know if I'm
I
wrong.
added another game in. Just for
you
fun.
did. So Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul, Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat are the best-selling fighting series. Rank them from 1 to 5. So the correct order is
Okay.
Tekken
Oh, I've already fucked up.
at 45.6 million.
Man,
Really? Bigger than Street Fighter?
that's surprising.
Street Fighter 37 million.
Yeah.
Then Smash Brothers 36.32 million.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
Mortal Kombat
Yeah.
35. And then the Soul series at 13.3.
So I got Souls last.
Do we get a point for each one?
Looks.
Okay, because I put Smash TV at the end. Do I get a point for that? Because that's technically after all of them.
That's true, but it's not strictly speaking a fighting game.
It's a big fat fucking 0 there for
It's
me
a
then.
Big fat goose egg.
And I almost switched Smash and MK.
I can't believe that Tekken's done more than
Yeah,
Street
that is
Fighter.
surprising
Yeah,
to me.
yeah, surprised me. Street Fighter 2 arcade machines have had how many quarters pumped into them? I think I gave you a 10 million leeway.
Well, now after the one with 5 and it was like a 100 answer, I feel like I'm way wrong.
What
Okay,
did you
go
put
on.
then?
What have you put?
160 mil.
160 million quarters, and you've put...
1 billion.
Okay, you're close.
650
You're
million.
closest, but you're still not quite there.
142.
9.25 billion
I knew it'd be in
quarters,
the billions.
which is the equivalent
So
of...
we get a fat 0 for that as well.
yeah, but you're the closest, so you've got to get half a point.
I get half a point. I've now made a whole point.
$2.3 billion pumped into Street Fighter 2.
Man.
Just Street Fighter 2. That's a ridiculous amount of money. So therefore, Pac-Man sits at the top of the 10 most arcade units sold at 400,000. Street Fighter sits at which position in the top 10?
I feel like my answer's bad. I just look at these and I'm like, now I'm listening to the question again. Should have changed it, but I put 6. I didn't know.
Okay, you put 6th. 6th was... 1, 2,
So that's
3, 4,
wrong.
5, 6 was Asteroids.
God, that was the game I was trying to think of for the other one. I'm going to write that down quickly now.
Okay,
For the other one.
so where did you put Street Fighter?
10.
No, 3rd.
Third?
I was thinking
Third.
after you read it out, I was like, it must be
That's like
higher.
a trick question. I
No,
thought.
Space Invaders was number 2. Street Fighter... Street Fighter 200,000 units. Donkey Kong at 132.
It sold less than
1,000.
Street Fighter. Donkey Kong.
Yep,
Fuck.
worldwide. Units sold.
This next one is a...
This is bizarre. Okay, but which of
Pissing
these
in the
is a
wind.
genuine arcade game from the top 10? What was your answer?
Earth Tiger something.
Earth Tiger 4,
Yeah.
and Harry has
Moon
put
Dragon.
Moon Dragon 3. The answer is Star Horse 2.
Every time you said it, 'cause you said it twice, I thought it can't be Star Wars, but it's going.
But this was it, because the list is Pac-Man, Space Invader, Street Fighter 2, Donkey Kong, Miss Pac-Man, Asteroids, Defender, Centipede, Galaxian, Star Horse 2. Now, I knew all of the other games,
Yeah, I've heard of all of them.
at least heard of them, but Star Horse 2?
Never heard of
It's
it.
a horse racing game of some description. Obviously, it's fucking ridiculously popular in Japan.
Dear me.
The introduction of which arcade game caused a massive coin shortage?
I just put Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2. This was in 1978, so the answer is wrong.
Yeah,
Never mind.
well, that would have been nice to know a time
I wasn't going to
frame.
tell you that though, because obviously that if I said a date, that would sort of narrow it down.
Space Invaders.
Space Invaders,
Is that right?
Yep.
Hey!
and it was the 100 yen coin. Almost dropped out of circulation as a consequence.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What was the name of the Urban Legend arcade machine?
I put nothing. I genuinely don't know.
It's Piglet and Winnie the Pooh Deathstroke.
Right letter to start with.
What?
Polybius. Polybius. Yeah.
And this is the one that basically killed you after you'd played it.
Yeah, made you just go insane.
Kind of like that
Apparently.
story of the mystery Zelda cartridge.
Yes, it's
along that
exactly
type
the
of
same
thing.
sort of thing. Exactly the same sort of thing.
Okay.
What is widely believed to be the first arcade coin-op to feature co-op play?
I didn't know. The only thing I just thought of a co-op game in an arcade
Yeah.
one time. House of the Dead.
Okay.
Double
Wait.
Dragon.
Double Dragon. No,
Yeah.
it was called Fire Truck.
Fire Truck.
1978. It was just called Fire Truck.
Oh, well.
What is regarded as the first arcade game? I'd never heard of this game.
So that's wrong.
I have 3 answers.
You can't have 3 answers.
But if he gets it right, you didn't.
What
What
did
have you got?
I put Donkey Kong, which I know is wrong because he said he'd never heard of it. But you
I'm-
cannot
I'm
put
going to
3
pick. I'm
answers.
going to pick one.
Okay, just pick one.
Well, it's not right if you've never heard of it.
Okay.
And I was going to say Pong.
Okay.
And I thought Space Invaders, and then
Yeah.
I thought Asteroids, but it's not any of those.
No, it was called Computer Space.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it now. I used to put my foot into the screen rather than coins.
In 1971, that was.
Really?
What is regarded as the first video game? This year amazed me. This is 1958.
Oh, Christ.
No.
It's regarded as the first video game.
I was going to say Pong,
I was going to say Pong.
but
I thought the same thing. I have to say, I thought that was it. And then when I
think
read
what
up
would
about
be
it,
a
I thought,
video
actually, do you know, I do remember this now. Not personally remembering, obviously,
Yeah.
but I do remember hearing about it.
I have no idea.
It is called Tennis for Two,
Never heard
and
of that.
essentially it was like Pong,
Okay.
but that's what it was done.
1950 what?
1958.
And what was that on?
It looked like a radar display. It's like a circular display. You know, where blips would go across.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. And it essentially like Pong. And I think it was
Well, that was
controlled.
classed as the first
Technically, first video game because it was a game played on a computer.
by the military.
Yeah.
Fuck
Total
me.
cost of Dead or Alive 5 DLC:
Probably higher, but I put $150.
$150,
$278.
$292.
Oh, fuck! I was close.
So you get half a point.
Hey!
You were certainly the closest. I said $10, but
It's stupidly expensive. We know that.
this is, and that's at present, with more to come.
I mean, even Harry's answer, although it was wrong.
I know we discussed this
It's
before, but I just couldn't remember.
ridiculous.
But we did, yeah, we didn't know. I think that was the thing. So I had to find out. How many copies of Tetris have been sold across all platforms?
Well,
And I gave you 10 million.
yeah, so I'm probably wrong again. I just don't really... When you say to the nearest thing, and I'm always still way off, I put 350 mil.
Okay, 350.
For Tetris,
Yeah.
I put 6 billion.
One for every human being on the
Yeah.
planet, near enough. 425 million.
All right.
So you get like half a point. Would you like it cheese and toasted?
No, was the answer.
No, I said the answer is yes, actually.
I thought
But
it
I
was,
said
it's a
because
fucking trick
But the
question.
thing about it is because I did say Harry, so technically your answer is going to be correct. So technically you get
I get a
one.
point.
So I get nothing for tuna melt.
No, because that wasn't the answer to would you like it cheese and toasted.
Well, I would. I would like it melted.
Yeah, but that's not the answer to the question that was asked.
Well, it points out the fact that the
Total up
sandwich
your
should be
points.
toasted and
Total
melted.
up your points.
That's bang out of order. I have 2.5 points.
Really?
2.5. How many have you got?
3?
3 points.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you have it. I'll let you have that one because honestly, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Oh dear.
That was a good quiz, though.
I know, admittedly, it's tremendously dull, I suppose, to listen to.
I can't
So I
believe
apologise
I
to
can't.
anyone that's
But
still
they can,
here.
they can take part, and they could have seen how many
They
points...
could. That's very true. They could have
probably
done because they were.
ruined us.
Admittedly, they were quite difficult questions, but they were. Some of the answers I
Difficult?
thought they were quite interesting
Yeah.
because I didn't know half the answers to these sort of things.
Neither did we.
Well, I
Yeah.
knew
Clearly.
2.5. I knew 2.5 answers to these.
I got a whole 3.
But had you asked them to me,
You
I
can
wouldn't
take
know.
your 3 and you can fuck off.
Oh, was that it?
Bye.